Advocate Batoya reaches the end of her tenure in January of 2026. The panel, which interviewed these 6 shortlisted candidates, are now deliberating on who to recommend to the president to take over. Let's take a look at Batoya's term in office with Professor Lukas Muntingh, who is the director of the Dullar Omar Institute at the University of the Western Cape. Prof, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this morning. So, Shamila Batohi would be mostly remembered as that evidence leader when she was the prosecutor during the King Commission that was looking into the match-fixing scandal in the year 2000 for Hansi Cronje. In 2019, she then takes over as the chief for the NPA. How would you describe that period of her tenure?
You're referring to since 2019?
Since 2019, yes, when she took over the NPA.
Yeah, I think she took over at a very difficult period. The NPA has been and continue to face numerous challenges. But I think if we look at the total period, then I think at least 3 things stand out. Is that there were certain measures put in place to address some of the problems in the National Prosecuting Authority over the past 6 years, and some results are emerging. But I think on the other hand, and that leads to my second point, is that the National Prosecuting Authority is in crisis. It has been so for a number of years. And one would have expected from the head of the institution to be more open and frank about the very, very serious problems facing the NPA internally, but perhaps more importantly, and that's my third point, and it's an unresolved issue, and that is the structural problems within which the NPA functions. The Prosecuting Authority is a program within the Department of Justice, and so the accounting officer of the NPA is not the National Director of Public Prosecutions, but it is indeed the Director General of Justice. And this has created problems, and it continues to create problems. It simply means that the NPA is to a high level administratively and financially dependent on the Department of Justice. So I think if one is to summarize the past 6 years, it's been difficult, there's been slow progress, and some of the very tough challenges has not been addressed.
You speak about one of the 3 main things being the lack of transparency and the frankness that is needed from the NDPP. What would you say are the legal reforms or the policy measures that you believe are most urgently needed in order for us to enhance that transparency and just a merit-based system with regards to then those appointments of an NDPP within the justice sector?
Yeah, I think the president has taken the right route to get a panel to advise him, even though the Constitution does not require it. So a first priority would be to put that into legislation and set out a clear procedure for how, what the requirements for the position are, and that we are very upfront about that, and that a higher standard is set than what is currently set, and that there is a clear procedure for selecting candidates and also to solicit public opinion on that. I mean, in the particular case, we were given literally a few days to comment on the shortlist, and we still don't know who is on the full list and why they were excluded. So those are very practical things that can be done to address transparency around the selection and appointment of the National Director of Prosecutions. The second major issue around transparency is not only the independence of the National Prosecuting Authority, but also the quality of the reporting. At the present state, the reporting is not necessarily at the desired level that we would like to see. even in terms of what is required in legislation, what is submitted to Parliament. There's a lot more that can be said and a lot more that can be shared with the public and the research community to engage with the challenges facing the criminal justice system at the moment.
I mean, you mentioned, Prof, that the department, well, the NPA is still in crisis. And Advocate Batoya also spoke about how she inherited a deeply compromised NPA. So within the powers that she did have during the time that she was chief of the NPA, even in the context of the accounting officer not being the NDPP, but rather the DG of Justice, as you mentioned, what do you think she could have done differently in order to create a different legacy, perhaps, as she's about to leave the NPA?
I think there was, and we saw it coming, is that the high-level corruption cases, whilst they are very important, one has to acknowledge on the other hand that they are very difficult to prosecute, and that the chances for success, in all honesty, were perhaps not that good. Yet that remained a focus of the NPA. Despite challenges in terms of the legislation, I think what would have been a valuable investment into the future of the NPA is a focus at operational level to see what is happening at the district courts and the regional courts and what can be done there to improve skills, to enhance cooperation with the other partners in the criminal justice system, and really see how we can fix the criminal justice system at that day-to-day level where it affects ordinary South Africans.
And just looking beyond the appointment process then, as we close up, Prof, with regards to who then takes over the NPA, what would you say are some of those systemic reforms that are necessary in order for us to be able to strengthen the overall integrity and the capacity of the NPA?
I think the first requirement for a new NDPP would be to very clear and honest and open about the problems that the NPA is facing and the context in which it is operating from a legislative and regulatory perspective, and how those problems have undermined the ability of the prosecuting authority to truly act without fear, favor, or prejudice. That for me would be the primary focus of a new NDPP, and secondly to exhibit strong leadership and take the lead in reforming the institution.
All right. Well, it's up to the president at this point. After that panel will then give their recommendation as to who the new chief of the NPA will be. Thank you so much for your time. That was Professor Lukas Muntingh.